Welcome to Lost and Found Tarot channel. Today I'll cast a spread of tarot cards based on a movie and do a breakdown of how the tarot was trying to show me what happens in that movie. Any and every level of reader can benefit from this type of practice. If you are intimidated by large, free-form kinds of spreads, this is a great way to try it out. The best part is that we as readers can verify a situation and events because we're basing them off a movie. We get full transparency of a situation because we get to watch it all play out. For this episode, I chose Matilda, the film adaptation of a Roald Dahl book. As a kid who grew up with books as friends, this movie gave me someone to relate to a bit. If you've seen it, you know that it was definitely a bit over the top, which was director Danny DeVito's way of keeping the real darkness of the story palatable as a family film. I was curious how tarot would talk about the story with its outrageous characters and, of course, telekinesis. I am yet to read for someone with such a situation, so this might be interesting. For these episodes, I always cast a 7x3 spread, 3 rows of 7 plus a hidden card that will come from the bottom of the deck. This is a spread that was taught to me by my teacher and mentor, and if you master it, it will give you a ton of information. That is also the drawback. Having so many cards on the table, sometimes I don't even know where to start because there are no fixed positions. But if you practice and you have lots of time to work through that spread, maybe you're on your own and you can leave it on the table for a bit, maybe come back later to kind of chip away at it, so to speak. You'll be amazed at how much nuance and detail tarot is giving you when you do this. So I shuffle in my own way, and I keep the card layout in mind so the deck knows what I'm going to do with it. As I shuffle, I ask, show me what happens in the movie Matilda, show me the plot of Matilda. I'll think about what I remember from that movie, and I rotate those thoughts as my hands move so that we program the deck. One way you can look at the tarot when you're shuffling is to imagine that it's almost like a universal search engine. You're trying to access the collective subconscious to gain new information that you don't have at the time. So the tarot guides my hands, but ultimately it's that higher version of myself putting the cards in the exact right order they need to be in. And if there's anything you take away from this, it's that you have to trust that you are going to get the exact right cards every single time. As long as you have that trust in your ability, you will not go wrong. The cards might confuse you, but as you do a little digging, as you do a little, you check your references and you work through them, you will realize that you in fact did have the exact right cards for the situation, even if they weren't, what you expected. So when I am finished shuffling, it's just kind of like just a sudden stop. So there's no, some people I know, they hear a sound in their head or they feel something in their hands, like a tingling. I don't get that at all. All I know is that I'll shuffle, and then suddenly it will just be kind of like, okay, that's it, time to go. So I'll straighten the deck and I'll cast a spread. I flip my cards, but that's just my personal style. However you turn your cards is perfect as long as you do it consistently. I put the spread up on screen so we can go through it. For this reading, since I already knew the plot and timeline of events, I just wanted to see how the tarot would take my understanding of the movie and express that on the table. Again, tarot works best when we use it like a mirror. It shows us the truth, and for some reason, the truth can be difficult to face. And even when we're shown what we already know, the fact that there is an external confirmation it feels like an uncomfortable exposure. But we aren't here right now for the serious stuff. We're just going to practice our reading of larger story-like spreads with, lighter subject matter. So here we have 22 cards on the table, and they're all important, but some are more so than others. The center card of the spread always shows us the heart of a matter. It's the keystone of the topic at hand. When you use the spread on your own, you'll want to see how the cards surrounding this one behave. Are they generally positive? Are they generally negative? Are they conflicting? Let's check out that sun reversed. Reversals are not something every tarot reader works with, but I do, and I'll explain why with this card. The reversals deserve an entire area of study all their own, but very simply, in my view, they create a new dimension for the upright version, like an expansion pack. In the upright, using the Smith Rider-Waite symbolism, we have that burst of joyous freedom. We're in the inner garden of our minds, protected by the walls, surrounded by sunflowers, and carried on the back of a horse that takes no direction from us. It carries us where it has decided to go, and we're just going along for the ride. Emerging from the energy of the preceding moon card that was full of fear and unknowable mysteries, we come to this card, liberated by the sun. The sun energizes the world, causes plants to grow, and gives us all the perfect visual conditions to do our human things. Under the sun, we are in its presence, and it sees all. Let's look at the cards touching the sun reversed. At the top, we have the Page of Pentacles, and this is for sure the character Matilda because she is a voracious learner and what most educators would consider to be the ideal student. She consumes information and applies what she learns. To the left of the Sun card is the Empress. This is the mother-like card, pulling in aspects of nurturing and growth, which is something that Matilda does not get in the slightest from her own mother, most of the adults in her life, except of course for Miss Honey, who is represented on the other side of the Sun reverse by the Hermit. The Sun in its reversal is not a bad card, nor is it a good card. I think when we start learning to read the cards, we apply a very binary logic because it generally works in other systems we have experience with. But if we work with reversals, we need to abandon that concept because nothing in human experience can be reduced to good or bad, period. Here, with the surrounding cards, we start to see a lacking element coming through the Sun reversed. These other cards are solitary. Even if they're not feeling loneliness, the figures are alone. Childhood as a concept is not where one is supposed to be in that state of being wholly independent. This is a time where we need support and assistance and care given to our development. In real life, neglect and forced independence at a young age does not usually end well, as it does for this story. Below the Sun, we see something like a divine compensation from the Ace of Pentacles. Matilda is dealt a horrible hand in terms of family and circumstances. But then we have the scene where she develops the ability to move things with her mind, and it starts by turning the awful insults she hears from her dad. In this card, we have something held out to us, and it comes from an external source. Where did her telekinesis come from? Who knows? Perhaps it's a gift. Maybe it was something she dug up out of the garden of her mind. I'm going to jump over to the first card and move through these cards one by one because the longer we look at a spread like this, the more each card will open up. So to keep from getting overwhelmed with too much information, too much going on, that's very common, I'm going to pull back and just go one by one. They all blend into each other, which is what we want because there are only 78 cards available to embrace all of human experience. So we have to let them melt down a bit, if that makes sense. The first two cards of the spread tell us what the situation is. 9 of Cups and King of Wands reversed. We can read these in a couple of ways that will make sense for the story. The first is how we can describe the first major theme of selfishness. The figure in the 9 of Cups has a collection of possessions that he smugly lords over. Paired with the King of Wands reversed, this is describing Mr. Wormwood, a slimy used car salesman who's obsessed with material things, money, and screwing people over. Since he's also the self-proclaimed leader of the family, the way he demeans and insults Matilda out of what appears to be pure disdain is a part that is carried over to the Ace of Cups reversed. The Ace of Cups reversed also touches the Empress, which certainly tells us that her parents are abusive asshats. The Devil also connects to the King of Wands reversed and the Empress, again showing us a willing devotion to materialism. Also, did you know that the Devil card can indicate marriage, vis-a-vis a bonded union, or the concept of being chained to one another? Though Harry and Zinnia seem to have a grotesquely healthy bond between themselves. We can say that like attracts like. Speaking of villains, let's go down to Justice reversed. I know you're probably wondering, how do you get the cruel headmistress, Ms. Trunchbull, from the Justice reversed? I got there by looking to the surrounding cards. First, the Devil sits on top, a fearsome figure that controls smaller humans. If we looked only at the imagery of the card and no further, she is showing us that monstrous dominion. The Three of Swords, next to Justice reversed, is the Chokey, If you saw the movie, you know it's Trunchbull's favorite tool of punishment. On the other side, we have Page of Wands reversed, and that's just bad news bears at its most basic. When justice is reversed, we ask ourselves how the laws of humans, as opposed to the laws of nature, are not in our favor. There is a perversion of truth and justice, not just by the Trunchbull, but by Harry and the other adults in Matilda's life. Back up to the Page of Pentacles. Let's see where she leads us. Coming to the Two of Pentacles, this is a card that has many meanings, among them the balancing of tasks or shifting of energy. I don't usually get this meaning as relevant, but today is the day. Do you see how ridiculously big that hat is? We have another double meaning for the story from this card. First, Matilda has begun to practice her powers, so we have that representation of having so much mental strength. Second, there is an event in the movie that involves superglue and Harry's hat. I guess we could take the hat thing from the following Two of Wands reversed. The card tells us that due to her liberation, she does act a bit impulsively with pranks, and even later in the movie, she does things that others immediately don't recommend, or goes against their advice. People who are considered highly intelligent, as Matilda objectively would be, don't usually act first and think later. If she did have that control, though, the movie would probably be boring, so here we see an aspect of her continuously messing with her parents and Ms. Trunchbull. We are now at the end of the row, and we're met with the High Priestess reversed. When she comes up reversed, we can often be advised that there is information being withheld, intentionally or unintentionally. It can sometimes mean that the client has chosen not to give you pertinent information, or the information is simply not being made available to you through tarot. We know not where Matilda's power came, and that particular mystery is astonishing to the other characters, but nowhere do we see dialogue that digs into that very much. If someone I knew could move things around with their mind, I would for sure be curious enough to ask some questions. The other key meaning here relates to the major plot point later in the movie. The revelation that the Trunchbull cast Miss Honey out of her late father's home after his unexpected passing and left her with nothing. Matilda, like some of the other protagonists we've met in this series, have their own version of justice that they pursue. Hearing that Miss Honey was being victimized by Miss Trunchbull and being the only adult in the story to show Matilda kindness, nurturing, and love, that causes Matilda to set out on a quest to restore justice. In the row under the High Priestess, we have the King of Swords reversed and the Ten of Wands reversed. These cards, I think, are in direct confrontation. They're not partners, they seem like opponents. On one side, we have the unhinged Knight of Swords, going from its usual, bat out of hell in its upright, into straight up batshit crazy angry in its reversed. Ms. Trunchbull was always an unstable person, prone to throwing children around for not having a hairstyle that she liked, and she also liked to enclose them in a tube full of broken glass and nails. But that was just in her regular mode. After a series of events at school, she directed way more venom at Matilda, but after she finds out that Matilda's in her house, she becomes effectively homicidal in her attempt to capture the petite trespasser. The High Priestess often absorbs the power of the surrounding cards, and I think that's what she's doing with the Ten of Wands reversed. Using mysterious powers, the Ten of Wands actively tries to get out from under an oppressive situation. Seeking release from the long-term situation of Miss Trunchbull having all Miss Honey's inheritance and immediate escape from being caught, Matilda uses her power to trick Miss Trunchbull into believing that the ghost of Magnus, Miss Honey's father, is seeking revenge from beyond the veil. The illusions cast by Matilda are seen in the Seven of Cups. The two final cards in the spread are the Three of Wands reversed and the Lovers reversed. It took me a while to puzzle this one out, because all the traditional meanings, or the learned meanings, failed to make sense. But eventually it does. The Three of Wands reversed is a card of self-sabotage. When Matilda made small contributions to the work the investigators were doing, even as she took back some of that effort later, they were still able to build a case against Harry. She didn't mean to, but she helped affect the final scene wherein a major choice has to be made. When Harry finds out he's wanted by the law he packs up the family and says they're moving to Guam. Matilda, having overcome Trunchbull, gaining friends at school and in Miss Honey, doesn't want to go with her family. Her family seems to feel the same way as they hastily agree to sign Matilda over to Miss Honey. The Lovers Reverse speak more to our inner relationship among the different parts of ourselves, more so than the relationship we have with other beings. The Lovers Reverse can describe a change or shift in the self, adolescence or maturing in some way that alters us fundamentally. Making the choice to break from her past and build her future as something completely different suits this card. The hidden card for the spread that I took from the bottom of the deck was Death. And if you're a reader, you probably know this one inside and out as the agent of change of some kind, usually on a major level. This card doesn't come up to signify the end and beginning of something trivial. In our movie, our protagonist undergoes a transformation in her life and the lives of others. By defeating Trunchbull, she brings an end to her reign of terror at the school and ushers in a new era under Miss Honey's stewardship. She brings an end to her isolation and abuse by her family by effecting the changes that provide her with a new life. Finally, she develops a strong psychic power that makes all of that possible. So every time I do practice like this, it's just completely mind-blowing, and if you're feeling a little bit jaded in your practice, like you get the same old questions, same old clients, it's a really great way to kind of break through that a little bit and rediscover your love for reading tarot. It's low stakes because no one's waiting for an answer. You can take as long as you want with it. You can lay the spread, watch the movie, read it, come back to it over a course of a few days. So there's no pressure, really. It will open a lot of spiritual doors for you as well. I experienced a few challenges with this one. I've been reading for a while, so when you think you know a card and what it means, a practice like this can help you realize that actually you don't, and it helps keep you in that perpetual state of being the fool, right? You always want to be an empty vessel to collect information. You can't walk into a reading holding judgment. Every time you do a reading, you have to empty yourself and be willing to receive what is sent your way. And sometimes that what is sent your way conflicts completely with what you've learned or practiced over the years. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing so that when I release a new movie breakdown or some of the other things I have planned, you'll get a notification for that. And if you see something that I might have missed, and I know I missed something, probably a lot of things, feel free to leave a comment below pointing that out for me and for others perhaps. I'll do my best to respond to your comment. But again, thanks for watching. Take care and keep practicing.